This video will be a DIY installation of an Aluminess roof rack on a Ford Transit. We'll be starting right from unboxing the roof rack, assembling it together, hoisting it up onto the roof, and attaching it. In order to have a clean installation, we're going to start the process by reading the instructions online. Alright, we're going to start unboxing the roof rack. We're going to take a look and make sure that there's no damage during shipping and take any note of that before we open the box up. It's beautiful.
Wow, sleek, eh? Yeah. Okay, so the rack came in two different parts, so we need to put the two parts together. There's two steps, it's basically bolting them together, and they sent us the instructions with the rack and all of the little bits and bobs we need. So they sent us washers, nuts, and bolts, and an anti-seize lubricant that looks like this, and we've heard this is super, super important. Thanks to all the YouTubers that made videos that we watched where they forgot this step and they warned us not to do that. So thanks for doing that. That helped us out, hopefully. We'll see what happens. Okay, so this is the front piece with the two holes for our fans, and this is the rear piece. So we've now organized them in the order that we need to attach them, and we'll be attaching the two interfaces together. Also organized it in the direction we're going to pull the van in. I think we're going to pull in forward, so we just need to lift it and then lower it back down. To attach the outer edges together of the roof rack, they supplied us with these socket head cap screws, and they're 5/16, and the Allen key we're using is a 1/4 inch. We are putting in 4 on each side. So what we need to do next is line this up so I can actually screw them in. Yeah.
We're going to use one of these clamps to help pull the roof rack together, and we're using the styrofoam that came with it, the packaging, to protect the metal.
There's a little bit to get the roof racks, actually the two parts together. We used some clamps, and now we're ready to install the bolts. This extra strong clamp was the best one for the job. Drop your pelvis. 3, 2, 1.
For this stage of connecting the rear to the front, we used a 5/32 Allen wrench and a 7/16 socket. And that one doesn't.
This is gonna be a nice patio deck. And there's a list of all the included hardware. So I've dumped it out, and I'm gonna check that we actually got everything that Aluminess said they sent us.
Once we start mounting the roof rack onto the top of the van, if for some reason we're missing hardware and need to go to the hardware store, we're not going to be able to drive with the roof rack half installed. Step 1. Begin by removing the rubber plugs from the roof of the vehicle. Ford sometimes paints over these, so it may take some prying to get them off.
Okay, we're now preparing our roof for the rack to be installed. We're removing all these plugs that cover the holes that are going to receive the bolts. We know where we're gonna find the bolt holes because there's this same size rectangular indent where there's a plug. This one here is not that size, it's more skinny, and this one's even smaller. So we know that's not where we're installing the rack. It's all the equally same sized indent spots. Because we have the 148 extended length Ford Transit 2020, we have 5 of these mounting locations on each side, so we have 10 total. First thing is to get this plug loose. I've been really carefully using a screwdriver, and I'm being very careful not to scratch the paint. The plug is actually really easy to lift off like this. I'm getting just a little bit lifted, then grabbed this edge with my pliers, and I'm just gonna pull it away, and it's held on by a sticky goop. There's a little bit of the black goop left over, so we just have this piece of plastic that we're using to scrape off the excess. I'm gonna wipe off those extra bits.
Step 2. There is a threaded hole in the roof underneath each of these rubber plugs. They are not necessarily in the center of the plug. There is also a good chance that there is overspray in the threads and that they must be cleaned out by running a tap through them. This is an M8 by 1.25.
Okay, so I'm just gonna double check that the bolt can fit straight into the receiving end. The hole in the roof is not always aligned perfectly. The first one we did, we had to actually trim the roof a little bit. So let's check. It works. You can see here, it's not centered in the hole of the roof, but there's enough clearance that it'll work.
Crush.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And then I'm getting my finger underneath the plug in order to get my pliers to grab the edge of the plug. Pulling, it requires a bit of a firm pull. Good, there we go. We're then using this piece of plastic to scrape off the excess. I keep saying we, but what are you doing? This hole in the roof is not aligned with the hole for the bolt, which means that won't work. I won't be able to screw this in. In order to make this hole work, I'm going to need to trim the metal of the van here so that the bolt can go straight into the hole. This is a tin snip, and I'll be using this to make the hole a little bit bigger in this direction because that's where it's not quite big enough. Eye protection for the bits of metal. Okay, test it again. Beautiful. The hole is big enough for the bolt now. It's important that we vacuum up these metal bits because if we leave them, they can cause rust. So we're using a shop vac to vacuum up. Done. Coffee break.
Caught in the act. How's it going up here?
Great, we've got 2 more holes to go.
Step 3. Attach the provided rubber pads onto each foot by peeling the protective sheet off the adhesive backing.
There's this rubber pad that I'm placing in between the foot and the roof. We just finished cleaning all these surfaces, and now we are attaching the feet for the roof rack to the roof of the van. I'm using soap and water and then drying it really well. I'm applying the anti-seize lubricant to the bolt.
Step 4. Run a bead of silicone around the hole of the foot on the bottom of the rubber. In addition, place a small dab of silicone on the threads of the provided M8 by 125 hardware. Be sure to place the necessary washers onto the bolt prior to applying the silicone.
I'm going to apply silicone to the roof of the van, right around where I'm going to be attaching the foot. And this is Sikaflex 291 Fast Cure Marine Adhesive. And I'm also applying a little bit to the bolt itself. You can see I've already put the washers on before I added those two things.
Step 5. Place the bolt with silicone onto the foot pad with the rubber insulation facing down. Doing your best to keep the foot exactly on the center of the hole, firmly place the foot onto the roof to ensure a good seal. If the threads are off center, it's okay because the hole in the mounting foot is the same size.
And I'm lining the hole up with the hole of the van roof. Then I'm taking the bolt with the two washers that we used. So I'm gonna place it in and try to thread it in.
Step 6. The foot is built with an angle to accommodate for the roof angle. Make sure to install the foot so that the mounting plate on top of the roof rack is level. Step 7. Do not completely tighten the roof rack foot to the roof at this time. This will assist in locating all the bolts.
So I'm just lining up the threads, hand tightening it to start.
Step 8. Repeat the foot installation process for the remaining 7 feet on the vehicle.
Okay, I got it.
Great.
Awesome.
Nice work. Step 9. Have some friends help you lift the rack on top of the vehicle and set it on the roof rack feet. Step 10. You can now use the 5/16 hardware to mount the rack to the roof rack feet. Do not tighten any bolts at this time. Step 11. Once you have all of the hardware in place, you can make minor adjustments to the rack so it sits on the roof in the right spot. Step 12. Once the rack is in a spot where you like it, you can tighten all of the hardware.
And we were able to attach the roof rack to the feet using the bolts, washers, and nuts that came with the rack. And I've just tightened them on, or attached them very loosely. We're going to make sure it's exactly where we want it and then tighten everything up.
Step 13. As a final seal, run another bead of silicone around the mounting bolts on each foot to ensure water cannot get into the roof.
The bolt that is holding the roof rack foot to the roof, we tightened it, covered it with Sikaflex, which is just a waterproof marine silicone type product. And now it's done! Yeah, it took us 14 hours, start to finish, from literally like opening the boxes, we had never looked at them, to fully installed. Plus we filmed the entire process, which definitely adds time. Plus I planned our wedding. Plus we baked sourdough bread. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and we're smiling.
We did good. Only one fight.
Yeah.
My first time on the rack. I think we're gonna hang out up here, boo-boo.
I plan on hanging out up there a lot. Great work today.
We love this roof rack. So if you're on the fence about if you want to get a roof rack for your Ford Transit, you should. And we love this. Aluminess makes an amazing product. We were just saying it is so cool. They've never seen our van. We sent them some measurements. Everything fits perfectly. The holes for the fans are perfect. And we were able to get it on, everything aligned, no issue. We hope that this video helped you with your roof rack install, or at least gave you an idea of what an install would entail to help you make your decision. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and let us know in the comments what you liked about it. Thanks!